Good morning, students. Today we are going to start chapter number 5 of history. The name of the chapter is Rulers and Buildings. In this chapter we are going to discuss that how the rulers built different kinds of buildings and why. Especially we will talk about 8th century to 18th century. During this period, rulers built different kinds of buildings, especially during the Sultanate age from 12th century last to 16th century, and after that Mughal Empire 16th century to 18th century. Especially we will discuss about the buildings built in this period. You can see the figure 1, this one, see carefully. This is the figure 1. It shows the first balcony of Qutub Minar. Qutbuddin Aibak started to construct this building, and the pattern created under the balcony by the small arches and geometrical designs. So you can see two bands of inscriptions under the balcony. These are in Arabic, and you also should notice that the surface of minar is curved and angular. Placing an inscription on such a surface required great precision. Only the most skilled craftsperson you could perform this task. You can imagine, dear students, that how the people were there, those who used to make these buildings, and how they were skillful, right? So between the 8th and 18th century, as we discussed, kings and their officers built two kinds of structures. Now listen carefully. There were two kinds of structures built by the officers and by the kings. What kind of two structures? Number one, the first were forts, palaces, garden, residences, and tombs. Safe, protected, and grandiose places of rest in this world and the next. So this was first kind of building or structure. Second structure was meant for public activity, including temples. This was for public, mosques, tanks, wells, caravanserais, and bazaars. So kings were expected to care for their subjects and by making structures for their use and comfort. So different objectives used to be there behind the making of these buildings by the kings, rulers, and their officers. And by making structures for their use and comfort, rulers hoped to win their praise. Construction activity was also carried out by others, including merchants. Not only kings and their officers used to make the buildings, including merchants also, other officers also used to make the buildings, other people also. So they built temples, mosques, and wells. However, domestic architecture, large mansions means havelis. You have listened this word, havelis. These havelis were made by merchants. So these havelis of merchants and has survived only from the 18th century, not before 18th century. So let's see about figure 1. The Qutub Minar is 5 stories high. The band of inscription you see are under its first balcony. And after that, the first floor was constructed by Qutbuddin Aibak and the rest by Iltutmish. Iltutmish also was a great ruler of Delhi Sultanate. Around 1229 he built this building, Qutub Minar. Over the years it was damaged by lightning and earthquakes and repaired by Alauddin Khalji. Also was the ruler during the Delhi Sultanate age, Muhammad Tughlaq during the Tughlaq dynasty, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, and Ibrahim Lodi, the last ruler or last sultan of Delhi Sultanate age. Now we'll discuss about engineering skills and construction. Labor for Agra Fort. Here we can see Agra Fort was built by Akbar. The Agra Fort required 2000 stone cutters. Those used to cut stones because machines were not there like today. 2000 cement and lime makers and 8000 laborers. So this kind of big labor was required for making any building. Now this is figure 2a and figure 2b. Screen in the Quwat al-Islam Mosque, Delhi. It was made in late 12th century. Figure 2b, this one, corbelled technique used in the construction of the screen. In this way we can discuss about engineering skills and construction. One more thing we have to read. Rani Ji Ki Baori or the Queen's Stepwell, located in Bundi in Rajasthan, is the largest among the 50 step wells that were built to meet the need for water. Known for its architectural beauty, the Baori was constructed in 1699 CE by Rani Natwat Ji, the queen of Raja Aniruddha Singh of Bundi. So Rani Nathawat Ji built this Baori, and she was the queen of Raja Aniruddha Singh of Bundi in Rajasthan. So after that, engineering skills and construction. Now we'll see this topic. So let's start the topic, engineering skills and construction. Monuments provide an insight into the technologies used for construction. Take something like a roof, for example. We can make this by placing wooden beams or a slab of stone across 4 walls. But the task becomes difficult if we want to make a large room with an elaborate superstructure. This requires more sophisticated skills. So these skills were there among different kinds of builders and the skillful people between the 7th and 10th centuries. Architects started adding more rooms, doors and windows to buildings. Roofs, doors and windows were still made by placing a horizontal beam like this across 2 vertical columns in this way. And this style was called, architecture called, Trebit or corbelled. You have to remember, dear students, between the 8th and 13th centuries, the Trebit style was used in the construction of temples, mosques, tombs, and in building attached to large stepped wells, means baulis or bauris. We'll study later about these temple construction in the early 11th century. 2 technological and stylistic developments are noticeable from the 12th century. First was the weight of the superstructure above the doors and windows was sometimes carried by arcs. This architectural form was called arcuate. Arcuate. You have to remember, this is the definition of arcuate. Limestone cement was increasingly used in construction. Limestone cement. This was very high quality cement which when mixed with stone chips hardened into concrete. So this made construction of large structures easier and faster and also very stronger. Task. Take a look at the construction site in figure 6. We can see in figure 6, this one, figure 6. 5, figure 5, and this one, figure 6 here. A painting from Akbarnama dated 1590-1595 showing the construction of Watergate at Agra Fort. This one, Watergate, Agra Fort. Figure 5a, true arc detail from the Alai Darwaza, early 14th century, Quwat al-Islam Mosque, Delhi. So in this way, one more thing, figure 5a, this one, a true arc. The keystone at the center of the arc transfer the weight of the superstructure to the base of arc. This one, keystone. So in this way, dear students, we have discussed till now. In the next video, we will discuss the rest part of the chapter. Thank you. Have a nice day.